Well, yeah, that's a Sawajibre or Bigrim on Adom TV, and Afi Asempa on the Kosi. What it tells you is that Media Mahine Kwabna Santi, and I mean, Philip Osebons, Obi, Yatinasi. Yebedin Koma here, Impendo Donano, Obertina, Semia Betabontin, one Triam main paying for, and in Chimuya, and a lot of issues. But the Abaton and Sequa Quas and Cassia Pano, the Brunibika say emergency power supply home comma acquaintance bebre. Ebinim say in Nama Horden, Yakosintai contract and Park Ghana here say in Nama Horden, if they overbound for so they will be. Ebinim they be contract in Munankasa, the Jimoko GPGs in Ankasano. Almost no for Quambisu, a Bugan and Intia, and say, Tokruda is shame Timno, almost fire in the womb. Ebinim so close to say, I buy so I and Shanghai, I may see Castle, pa, a bit me a boy. I knew my baby, no, and near by Kutia Ama, a yes, Jumacuno. Won't tear say anything, measurement tear say anything, or Yamadum, Ghana's Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah, and Yana in any between a yes, and Kono. Mendasi for a brown Yamai.
That's a part
of medical first question, maybe Sarah Salaminia, Yosibun Swabemni say, I think around 3rd of June 2015, and as a emergency power purchase agreement in Komi. A buy and Ghana is answered near what to be a bimintino. You just sign she share a boy in Jenny GPGC and a coyer sign she share. Now the ATF film near different, it's implied the common, and the ATF in a quite different. A dear potapan at the common.
Right. It's so kind of emergency power purchase agreement no around 3rd June 2015. Now in this abino, almost signing. Now almost signing was supposed to deliver power within a certain time frame. For a time frame, as only deliver power. No. By the time I ultimate agreement, now conditions precedent, as they say, no matter say one year as agreement, I effective now 1 year. Now, interestingly, 2016, September 2016, now NDC balance as well. One who say, signing what do we call PPA? PPA needs to a power purchase agreement. I sign PE as a bruisel. Now, once I sign there, it holds financial implications for the state. So, because the financial implications being held on account of the execution of these PPAs, there was a need to evaluate. I said, "I'm share now PPAs, I'm share in year and say, PPAs will cry. A who here say, I'm signing. The who here no, for me to cancel, and so much and I say, maybe a who here no, but." Time no answering because if I'm community say I be my power supply now too much no maybe I'm waiting me defer or postpone. The committee no set up in 2016 September no. We took office in January 2017. Government they said to us civil servant public servant to be on more to continue or more no. Now we reporting by April 2017. Now that committee na and making the determination say most of the PPAs were unnecessary because they would result in what they termed excessive capacity development or excessive power supply to the state, in the sense that the state's capacity was determined, was limited. Even if what they can try because we be a industrialization 1D1F power, a being a power seed, Madoma, what do you need a boomer? PPA on my side. A bro so cry. They say a terminated P. No, some way here the termination said they should terminate about 11 or so. And then a few others should be deferred because which are terms here quite favorable in Tibia. It deferred best 6 years time. I visa. Because even with the terms are favorable, but at this time, into me, we don't need the power. And now, interesting, I'm say, okay, so the first PPAs now, a very resulting in losses to the state amounting to $586 million every year. And that is from 2018. And cumulatively, that is totally from 2018 to 2030. A very resulting in cumulative losses of $17.6 billion, if I'm over $17 billion. Then Papa say maybe I say you try even if you be a bank care loss that. So the committee and realized say yes, termination there to come with financial implications. Because NDC are balance an agreement with Nkofo. Now Nkofo na an agreement with them. So here agreement now. But I mean to terminate here. Say what you power, say one GO, so to be. And that's really my problem. I later on I'm sure to be on Komono and Beko. So that recommendation was made to the government, say we cancel some of the PPA agreements, including GBGC. The GBGC agreement, no can specifically say that agreement ought to be terminated. And so the Attorney General at that time, Madam Gregufo, also relying on the report of the PPA committee. I say PPA committee because I was supposed to review PPAs. Also reviewed the agreement and made certain determinations that, well, in addition to the lack of excess capacity, in addition to the fact that the agreement would occasion excess capacity, the conditions precedent and some other conditions.
Okay, but Mr. Obi, Mami, Intino, I said, sir, committee na you're setting up, no. This administration or the previous administration? The
previous administration. And
reason being?
Because one who say there was an existence too many PPA agreements. PPA agreements, no, a very resulting in what we call excess power. I say electricity in here, power in here, Ghana. In here, so they are saying a very waste, and it to not just be waste, but of course it will also result in financial loss that the state was going to lose. I think it's quite, if I may actually quote, just for purposes. So the first issue, and this was a journey away from a committee, set up. It's quite clear here. The committee was inaugurated on 29th September 2016 by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Power. That's at page 12. Then you go to even the same page, page 12. It says the action has become necessary as the setting up of the committee has become necessary in view of efforts being made by government to ensure that adequate and affordable power is made available to citizenry. This is in consideration of the need to procure adequate power as and when required and avoid excessive capacity development, which leads to increased capacity charge payment.
Wow.
Into the answer, finally, I would say, really, if they don't evaluate the PPAs now, a bit hard, and that it is informed by the need to procure adequate power and to avoid excessive capacity development, which would lead to increased capacity payment. So that's really the rationale for setting up the committee. Now, on the question as to what would happen if the agreement or the agreements were allowed to proceed, the committee also made the determination here. In the business as usual scenario, where all executed PPAs are made to proceed without modification, excess capacity rises from a minimum of 524 megawatts in 2018 to a maximum of 2,886.85 megawatts in 2021, when all the committed and candidate projects would have reached their commercial operation date. Over the period from 2018 to 2030, the annual excess capacity average 1,400. That's excess capacity.
Yeah.
So the annual excess capacity averages 1,463 megawatts, whereas what the country needed was 524. So the country needed 524 megawatts, estimated high. Meanwhile, excess capacity alone was 1,463. That's about
PPAs and a sign.
Yeah, a sign. That's about 300% more. So the country needed 524 megawatts. And that's a excess. Alone is 1,463. There was a need for you to continue with the business as usual. And the annual cost of this excess capacity averages about USD $586 million. The annual cost every year from this excess capacity average, not the one that we be using. Yes, capacity averages about $586 million. This was the result or the finding or report of the committee set up by the ESWA Ministry of Power. Ministry of Power.
And for the purpose of incommodity, yes, they are Hinkra committee because
Dr. Hinkra
Energy Commission.
Okay.
And you are not done one.
Or no, or chair.
Yes.
I think there is really no debate about Honorable the rationale for why this committee was set up, because also the findings of the committee now in the executive summary, has said the committee established that even though capacity additions will be required in the years to come, the scheduled capacity addition from the executed PPAs is in excess of the required economic and sustainable capacity additions, which even include the 20% reserve margin. You know, the 20% reserve margin, still, I think so. What do you know? China, you can establish the debate be anyhow. The said your former boss advised the energy ministry say based on SAR report or more cancel contract but say report and so recommendations on a GCD the report can say government may consider terminating the PPA of GPGC with an installed capacity of 107 megawatt at an estimated cost of 18 million USD, or else pay excess capacity charge of 24.90 million USD per annum over the contract period of 4 years. By the time report we are ready, our committee recommended say we may terminate. Now ye name say the company in question na start a juma bi kakra, for which reason I intimi nka say yes sorry I terminate contract no sa keke.
But we check it. Is it May?
Yeah, May.
You read that?
Yeah, but
May.
Yes, but government May because the committee was recommending something to government of Ghana.
Their recommendation
was up to government of Ghana to take or not to take. I mean, essentially, but it also did not derogate from the point that the committee had made all these findings that you could not ignore.
Yes.
If you are a responsible government, you're supposed to take decisions based on informed situations. And the information that we had received was that these PPA agreements were unneeded, apart from not being needed, they were going to result in losses of about $586 million to the state. Every country, even 5 George Walker Bush Highway at that time, the media account was 544, which was 543, which was celebrated. And so, if every year we're going to throw away $586 million, really, that is something that any government cannot ignore. So, on account of that, the government decided to terminate, and that was, of course, preceded by the opinion of the then Attorney General. But I'm saying that, yes, back to your question whether we had not established that work had been done and all. There was determination by the energy experts at that time that really not much had been done. And I think that if you read the arbitral award made it quite clear, say, our witnesses testified to the fact that work had not been done. Of course, the arbitrators held a contract review and determined that, yes, we're supposed to pay this amount of money. And I'm saying that, it's it to be beside, I say, Adena agreement, almost supply power at all. Adena agreement, what was termed conditions precedent, say, no, my engineer, I don't know.
What's wrong with
answer?
Yeah, we go across.
Good. We go across agreement no agreement properly. I didn't say it mutual 1 something million to a company who had not done or which had not satisfied all those conditions precedent. And that is because of the kind of agreement entered into by the NDC. So apart from the decision to enter into the agreement itself, we must also probe the very terms of the agreement that were entered into. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So first and foremost, 2 factors expose the government of Ghana to the payment of this amount of money. First was the decision to enter into the agreement when was the conditions were really did not render the entry into the agreement necessary at all. What fair argument to emergency power agreement? Emergency say unya power for use.
And many
Meanwhile, by 2017, now conditions present no satisfied. Agreement which I say satisfied conditions present.
Ansama.
Yes, very short time, about 30 days or so.
30 days.
Yeah, 30 days. Signature of the agreement. So he was supposed to satisfy it. By 2017, by the time you registered, you signed it on 2nd June, 3rd June 2015. You registered from power
7th January.
Yes, January 2017. By that time, there was no condition. I mean, there had not been the achievement of an effectiveness of the agreement. So even by that time, they should even have perhaps terminated the agreement, because first and foremost, all the conditions present, the timelines had been, had not been honored, and also that by that time there was no emergency situation. Some supposed to do something before,
Yeah.
And even on account of the PPA committee report, by September 2016, there was excess power. So it means the emergency situation regarding the agreement itself was not existent.
Wow.
That is one. And I'm saying that why would a person then saddle the nation with such unjustified financial expense, financial loss?
So we say we share some of the condition precedent and was say omo meeting na it be a binding was say provided. And for example, back on it, license and also munya from the Energy Commission. I be mo kwai mo trade in power near the no. So license na say a delay ya omonsa anka permit near the no mo pay to enter site and begin construction and no na kwa koyi bibia ewo ho. Enti the company also feeling say okay, by 2017 I'm satisfied in but it was not my doing. It is a obe cancel contract based on say and ya was a mayor. Then no knows woman a problem.
Fair argument to make if I were a lawyer for the company. Yeah. But I'm saying that the government, which was responsible for ensuring a satisfaction of that agreement, reneged on its obligations. It failed to meet every important timeline. Even the time for submitting the agreement to Parliament, they even defaulted by many months. So really, they themselves, right from the outset, set out not to even carry out the terms of the agreement.
Deliberate?
I don't know whether it's deliberate or not. That's why they had an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the entry into the agreement and the default on all the terms of the contract. I mean, I think that it's a matter that in the interest of the nation we have to prove. Now, when you know that the country did not need such an agreement, you enter into it and then later you just find I want to export it to neighboring countries. But that even is defeated by how the agreement was described. It's an emergency power purchase agreement. You entered into an emergency power purchase agreement for the purpose of subsequently exporting to another country? No. And then also, per the determination of the technical people at Ministry of Energy, the conditions for an exportation of electricity, they don't even exist. But at the time the agreement was signed. If you look at the PPA committee report, I think it is made out there, stated clearly that really the whole issue of sporting electricity and whatever, really did not arise at all. And I think that was a hoax, because to date, I don't think that there is an establishment of conditions necessary for exploitation of power to electricity or to neighboring countries. So really, to date, this argument would have been unnecessary.
Okay.
Then so the terms of the agreement that I said were also very, very bad in simple terms. If you look at the agreement itself, you see that clause 1 defines what effective date is.
A very critical point. The time and there was a contract. Yeah.
So clause 1 say court no. Clause 1 say agreement no. Be effective after fulfillment of conditions precedent. It says effective date is a date on which all conditions precedent have been fulfilled or waived.
Okay.
And will be 30 days from signature date.
Okay.
Okay, you know, just say Ghana by I fulfill or no.
Say, I see effect. I see agreement. No, say a big giant also a big age. It must be after conditions precedent.
So a bit more. So I say we know. I say to me,
I say
within 30 days.
30 days from signature date.
From time you sign a contract.
Except that by mutual agreement in writing, the parties may extend the period. There was no such extension in writing, and was actually part of the agreement that we used to defend the matter. That indeed the parties themselves, by their conduct, had decided to even render the agreement ineffective.
Okay, because I do okay.
Sebia in conformance and Pono na bomb signing agreement no. NDC for government in the GPG's campaign no. They really no agreement to any senka a bomukra. Yes, 30 days from Omanye. No, most agreement just say some extended time no in writing. They never did that. So it was part of the arguments that we raised, but they were shut down. And why they were shut down will be clear from the terms of the agreement. They were shut down because clause 2 the same agreement into the still went to empire even if appointing a holding part stay so here. Yes, because
and no your administration there can say the can be understood.
Yes, to my
mounted defense.
Mounted defense for court no. And there was a full defense. Among for say case no, there was a default judgment. Default judgment say be what filing rate against me 7 days. I said my entire appearance. Now my entire appearance. You have the right to go to court and take judgment against me. So me file defense so I mean entire appearance. I file appearance. That's it. And so I have 14 days. I say be file defense. And so my that one man file defense. You have the right to go to court and take judgment against me. In this case, it was never like that at all.
And this
agreement case no, I'm filing no. We contested the matter vigorously. We filed our statement of case in the opposition, filed many documents in the opposition. Then there was a full trial. Say a T case in your court. On witnesses, a buy, or kind, and say we in yes, fire witnesses. Dr. Henkrampu also testified one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a trial for us, and we proceedings are journey for 4 months, and so my judgment January 2021.
Within 2020 COVID period, no, not trial, no air cost. Meaning no online.
Online, yes, we're online. In Kogu, from Olympic, from hotel Monte, for representatives for me. I mean, probably about okay. By now, me argue and officer of president so sending for by
reps.
Yes, Koisuman to come and observe and all that. Many other people. So really, I'm not for make us for judgment, no. At all, and okay. But of course, so mutual agreement a ball cast necessarily. Now, even though my defining effective date in here after this president satisfied me. Clause 2, defining the term of the agreement as starting from the signature date. That's fine. Then clause 2B, it just says, "Such term no a guaranteed period." And in the event that you terminate the agreement, see, you also an agreement in there. Then next week, we terminate here. So we clear all the sums that a person will be entitled to under clause 25.
But where from this?
Precisely, as you say, we have a agreement. Aha. Into clause 2 it says subject to provisions of clause 25 of this agreement. And you can pay subject to this agreement shall have a term commencing on the signature date. And then clause 2B, the term shall be a guaranteed period. And in the event, so the term which starts from the signature date, a guaranteed period.
But,
and in the event that this PPA is terminated in accordance with provisions thereof prior to its expiration date as a result of a default of any of the parties not responsible for the default may proceed in accordance with clause 25 of this agreement.
Wow. What it means is that say a buying per se even or exercising the powers under clause 1. Say more meeting condition president did me
yes, indeed. The proceedings I hope said were even recorded. Which arbitration almost private. Yet I can produce to you the notes that I made for the argument. And I said that the implication of this argument is if a signing agreement is in there, now say the call parliament before it becomes effective. Parliamentary approval is a condition precedent for any agreement in Ghana. Yes. The Ghana laws, yes, say if the agreement is a foreign company, even if it's not in the agreement, but it's so parliamentary, you must still go at 181 plus 5. The implication is that even if the agreement has not gone to Parliament, for Parliament to approve, now what's an agreement with the way? Now, say terminate here. The other party, who has not had this agreement obtaining parliamentary approval, can still claim all the sums that have been given to a company based on this clause 2A and B.
But
so that argument, court shooting it down, and they even if you look at page 143 of the award, this is so that my interpretation is wrong because the agreement that we signed, under clause 3, which also repeats the same things in clause 2. We're supposed to pay.
Yeah. Honorable, I say mono in my defense, no, mo hate clause 1. I can say so my meeting condition precedent be a mutimi HM.
The agreement is
no more raising
clause 2.
2A and 2B and as well as clause 3. Any 25.
This is what we have signed as on my yes. But Obi Fachemi, Adom Mpensenpensenmu. Are we sure we are reading the right document?
100% correct. 100%. This is it. Government of Ghana represented by the Minister of Power.
At the time,
yes, there was no Minister of Power in our time. There has not been a Minister of Power in our time. No more Minister of Power. And GP is limited. Emergency purchase agreement. Now look here. Says the emergency purchase agreement. This agreement is entered into as of this 3rd day of June 2015 by and between the government of Ghana, represented by the Minister for Power, or its authorized representative, having its principal office, so and so, and GPC Limited, a private limited company incorporated in Ghana, so and so. Okay. Of course, the company was owned by foreigners and all that. Then the signature page for the agreement also indicates quite clearly those who signed it. So, I mean, there's no doubt. This is, so, in witness whereof the parties have executed and delivered this EPA as a day and a year first above written. For on behalf of the government of Ghana, Dr. Komna Donko, title Minister for Power, and so on behalf of
Okay. So,
but Honorable, my question then, following from revelation, now the Amaye EBS, because Yenim says, according to international agreement, said we are cool, mono, not for reasons being opesa will terminate here. The other party or no will be at the receiving end of the termination. No, our right to be honest with my exercise. It been so call to the tribunal in the UK. When we advised the Ministry of Energy and go ahead and terminate the contract, no, were we aware of these other clauses? Say, you terminate, that's a could do court. Near is okay, we terminated based on the fact that condition prisoner also meet your moment and terminate here. Did we know of the clause 2 and 3 and the provisions thereof?
Yes, I mean, it was there quite clearly.
So why then did we recommend saying him?
Because of the same reasons, if we deliver it, it was going to result in excess. Capacity. Then the committee also made a finding that agreements imposed in terms of the tariffs, that's charges, too high. Into indemnity. Into what is our PP committee report now? In some cases, say indemnity about 80 million.
Yes.
I think no credit maker. I think it's a part of the was wrong. It was wrong. Maybe I know many lawyers in here, but it did not take into account the relevant provisions of the agreement.
The agreement.
Yes, and that's what the tribunal actually stated. In fact, when Dr. Hinkra was in the box and when another gentleman from Ministry of Energy was also in the box, all these things were put to them. So we had experts from Ministry of Energy enter Adakano
as witness for the state.
Yes, they are dancing. Sounds expert to be also making calculations. So no, what they were entitled to is not 134 million, but about 68 million in all total. Yeah, but the committee, the tribunal preferred the testimony of what GPGs for. So that's it.
And you know, 134 million.
134.
Okay.
Honorable Inti, the ruling was delivered in January 2021. After say ruling ne buy, now you need any other options to either appeal, to either exercise any other right.
There be not at all. And I think it's a question here because first of all, the show timer, judgment. Judgment on 26 January 2021. 2021. I'm out for on play mystery. Say, me because that time I was not even attending. There was actually no attending in office. The time the judgment was delivered. So that also might have accounted for all the difficulties and challenges. And there was no attending because by law, whenever attending anywhere, whenever there's a vacuum in the office of attending and friends, deputy attending, it is the Solicitor General which
and the acting
who acts because really until here, time you appointed president's representatives around the country. Obviously, attending there was no president's representative.
Not president representative be there.
Yes, because in Bra, you didn't president or didn't Bra, and Brano Legal Service Act. Just say attending anyone, deputy attending anyone, Solicitor General no act.
Solicitor General they also.
So and also it is not as if say your ma arbitral order and as arbitration judgment will be a right of appeal. Will be any right of appeal at all. And the agreement is even express it. Any agreement to open as arbitration award they find out. In fact, Ghana we have an Alternative Dispute Resolution Act, and in it, if you look at it, it will indicate clearly say every local arbitration pono your ma award a final.
A final.
Which my appeal appeal to the High Court on very limited grounds.
Yes.
If I say a pan and no more, they have no jurisdiction. And I be mama hearing, and I say, friends, there was corruption in the process. So we need any of these factors. You cannot really appeal.